Is frustration creeping into your photography? I know sometimes frustration creeps into my photography, whether I'm photographing wildlife, astro, or landscapes. At times, frustration creeps into your photography. Today, we're going to discuss frustration in our photography. Frustration can creep into our photography very easily if we let it. And at times, I've been guilty of that as well. I've let frustration creep into my photography. Sometimes out in the field, most of the time though, at home, when we get back and we look at our photos and we see that we didn't take the time, or we used the wrong aperture, we used the wrong shutter speed, we didn't frame our photos properly. This is how frustration can creep in. I'm going to discuss how I've been able to deal with this frustration. Because for me, frustration can affect me mentally very easily. If you watch my videos, you see that I have shaking hands. This is just a part of me that I have to deal with. But if I let frustration creep in when I'm taking photos, this can be magnified. So I try to keep my stress level and my frustration down as much as I can. Last year we were out taking photos of ospreys and this helicopter came around. My mate saw it first. I was just busy trying to photograph other birds and he said, "Charles, take a look at this." And he showed me this photo of the helicopter. It was great. And without changing my settings, I saw the helicopter come back around, took a photo, totally different. And they're like, "Mate, how come yours is like this and mine's like that?" He said, "Did you change your settings?" I go like, "Numbnut. I'm taking photos of birds. I've got a very fast shutter speed." And when I took the photo of the helicopter, it looked like it was standing still. So I quickly adjusted my shutter speed. Too late. The helicopter never came back around. It just flew off into the distance. I missed a perfect opportunity. And you're like, well, okay, I missed out. And I don't get too many chances of photographing helicopters. So lesson learned. Before you change subjects, remember what that subject needs. So next time I'll be prepared and I'll remember, hey, I'm going from action to when I needed a slower shutter speed to get those blades in rotation. Now take a look at this image here of this honeybee eater. I took the photo of it and it looked great on the LCD and I go like, wow, I'm so happy with it. It was just beside its nest because these birds nest in the ground and I was just ecstatic. But when I got home, I realized that all the background, it was just like crazy. And I go like, what is going on? I don't know to this day what happened. Sometimes when you're trying to capture birds in flight, the bird standing still on a branch, you know it's going to take off. It's showing signs it's going to take off. And as soon as it takes off, you press that shutter button and then you look at the photo and you go like, the bird was a bit far from me. I'd zoomed out to 500. What should I have done? I should have zoomed back in, maybe to 300, to count that this bird's coming towards me. And what happened? I cut half the bird off. Photo was useless. Frustration can easily build. And when I took these photos, I turned to my mate that was there with me and I go like, oh, he said, "Did you get that?" I go like, yeah. And I showed to him, he goes, "Oh, you've cut it in half." I said, "Yep, I should have zoomed back out. 500 mil was just too far. I should have moved back out to 300. Sometimes when you're out photographing landscapes, you use the wrong aperture or you use the wrong shutter speed. Last April, we went down to Armidale and I really wanted to photograph the Godswick Chapel while we were there. So we went late in the afternoon, it'll be nice. I took some nice photos, some panoramas, and I got in close and I took this photo. But my problem was that I was in aperture priority and I accidentally adjusted the aperture from f11 to f5. So the Godswick Chapel is in focus. The tree on the left of it though is out of focus and it doesn't look nice and all the background is blurred. But it wasn't blurred enough, so it was a distraction. And I kicked myself because I didn't realize this until I came home. In my heart, I knew I could have done better. And this is where frustration comes in. You go like, if I only had re-looked at my settings, because most of the time I look back at the photos and I look at the settings I used. I got caught up in the atmosphere. Go like, oh, it was just excitement. I was here, didn't pay attention to my settings, and I missed out because this was the only shot that I took of the Godswick Chapel with this point of view. So it really annoyed me. This photo here of sunset at my favorite mangrove tree, is a photo that frustrated me no end because it was a long exposure and I put my tripod in the water. But something you have to remember is if you're putting your tripod in the water, in sand or in soft mud, you've got to make sure that you firmly plant that tripod. And on this day, light was fading and I just rushed it. I planted my tripod in, but I didn't sink it in enough. Took the photo, it was around 10-second exposure. It's like triple because as that 10-second exposure was happening, the tripod slowly moved. That wasn't what I was after. I was after that beautiful glow just after sunset. And by the time I saw the photo, because I had long exposure noise reduction, the colors had gone. I was really peeved off that day. Believe me, I missed a chance. I was really frustrated and it took me a while just to get over that, thinking like I just missed that shot. Look at this waterfall image here. I'm around 50 meters from the base of the waterfall up in Mount Tambourine, and I wanted the water just to flow over these rocks, but I also just want to see the base of the waterfall. So I framed it perfectly. I took a photo and I felt great. It's in focus. And then I looked at it like, hey, how about I just tilt the camera down a little bit and just get a photo of just the water flowing over these rocks. So I just tilted the camera down and I took a photo, but I forgot to refocus. The camera focused, but where did it focus? It locked onto the moving water. It was able to focus on that. And the result was the water was in focus, but all the rocks were out of focus. Because I wear glasses, I wasn't wearing my glasses because I was in the water, and I just looked at it on the LCD screen, says, yep, beauty, I got that shot, packed up. When we got back into the car, mate was driving us home and I was just looking back through the photos, had my glasses on, and I looked at this photo and I told my mate, and I said, I stuffed up. I took one, recompositioned my image without looking where I had the focus point, and the whole background is blurred. And he said, Charles, live and learn, I said, yeah, but it's so frustrating because it's something that I know, and I teach people saying, when you recomposition an image, check your focus, check to make sure that your focus point is where you want to be. And I didn't do what I tell people to do. And that frustrates me so much sometimes. Now here's the last image. This was taken 2 years ago when we were in Tasmania at Russell Falls. It had been drizzling a little bit. We were short on time because we had a plane to catch. And I'd just been taking some video of the waterfall and it was just beautiful. I really liked it. And my wife goes, Charles, we're running out of time. I go, yep, quick, I'm just going to take a photo. And I took a photo. And on the Z6 II, we have a record button for the camera, and with a flick of a switch, I can go from video to photo. I didn't flick that switch. I just pressed the shutter button. Started to rain again, packed everything up, drove to the airport, and it was only 2 days later after I downloaded all these photos, and I looked and go, hang on, how come it's 16:9? How come it's in JPEG? Instead of being a 6x4 at 24 megapixel, it was a JPEG at 4 megapixel. And I thought back and go like, you numbnut, I didn't flick back from video to a photo. And on the Z6 II, you can take a photo while you're in video mode. All it does is this takes a 16:9 in JPEG. I did quite a bit of editing, but it was still a 4 megapixel photo. And that was really frustrating. I love waterfalls and I really wanted to print this photo on canvas and hang it up in my office. I don't know if we'll ever be back to Russell Falls. So you can see how frustration builds into my photography at times. And I hope by sharing my experiences to you, and you'll be able to say, hey, if somebody like Charles gets frustrated with his photography, I shouldn't feel too bad when I get frustrated. And you've just got to learn that don't let frustration creep into your photos, because if frustration starts creeping into your photos, what will happen? You'll go out less, because the mindset will set in saying like, last time I went out, I stuffed everything up. I didn't get the photos I wanted. And if you leave this mindset roll on, then you'll go out less. And one day you'll realize, hey, I haven't been out for 6 months. Your partner might say, hey, why don't you go out? Every time I go out, I stuff up. That's not life. Don't let frustration build into your photos. Learn from your frustration and say, hey, I've just got to pay attention when I'm out there. Pay attention to my shutter speed, pay attention to my composition, my aperture, and frustration won't creep into your photography. I hope this video has helped you. If it has, give it a big thumbs up. Stay safe, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you next time.